Good morning and welcome all of the extended Gunsalus family to our celebration to celebrate the life of the man I knew as Dad, the man you knew as Gunny, universally I think. I'm Glenn Gunsalus. I'm the eldest surviving sibling. Had an older brother, Gene, who we lost to lung cancer 2 or 3 years ago. The other 6 of us are alive and kicking, all of us professionals. I think we'll probably meet people at lunchtime. When Tina asked me to do this, my initial reaction was a little bit of reluctance because I've been out of the professional before people thing for a while, and you lose a facility. You lose language facility, you lose exercise, ability to say what you want to say. So I was a little nervous. I said, all right, I'm the oldest, I better do it. This is a Gunny job. We're here not to review the science. That's been done very well in a number of other places. A number of the fresh shrift from the 70th, which Steve Slagar was going to speak, was one of the editors. The BBRC special edition in '03 I found pretty useful for me trying to do some genealogy of the Gunsalus family. And by family I mean everybody in the room, because everybody was family. Everybody was extended family, and I saw 2 things when I started looking at this. One was a constant quest for understanding how things work, and the ability to look at new technologies and to use new tools. And I was through going, and I think it's a lesson that all of his students took away, and certainly we took away as kids. The other thing was the connectivity, the ensuing connectivity. Things that started out maybe 4 or 5 degrees of separation ended up ultimately, I think, for all of us at 1 or 2 degrees at worst. I think everybody ended up knowing everybody. It wasn't somebody who knew Gunny, you knew Gunny. So we have 4 speakers on our program. They're people who represent various phases of Gunny's life, different kinds of interactions, and they're going to share with us some of their thoughts and experiences as to who he was as a person. And the first person I'm going to call on is Michel Manago. He's a double hitter here. He's representing the Manago family. His mother, Marian Ann Grunberg Manago, came to Urbana in the early 50s and worked in the lab with Dad, and was the beginning of part of the long-term French connection. And he also did his undergraduate work here in math and computer science, and went on to get a degree, his advanced degrees in artificial intelligence, and has been involved in knowledge-based systems. You tell us. Systems? Very pleased he came from Paris.
Thank you, Glenn. So, as Glenn mentioned, my parents and Gunny have known each other for over 50 years. It's nearly half a century. And the only reason why my mother isn't here today with us to share a memory about Gunny is the fact that about 9 years ago, she had a brain stroke and is now sitting in a wheelchair. So she will not be with us today. It took a lot of courage for me to tell her about Gunny's death. In fact, for 3 months I didn't have the courage to tell her, and it's only until last Sunday that I broke the news to her. And you know, I could think that she was really very much hurt by the news, and told me something like the worst thing in life is to see your lifelong friends disappear before you do. So anyway, I asked her if she wanted me to say anything about Gunny in her name, and she thought about it, and she said, yes, tell them that he was a generous man. And I think that this is not something that is immediate, because in terms of human relations, sometimes Gunny was a little bit like a bulldozer, and it's not what I would have thought, but really beneath the surface, and the toughness Gunny was really someone who cared about people. He helped people, he didn't brag about it, he didn't parade, but he really just did it. And I remember numerous anecdotes about this, and this waitress at his Urbana favorite restaurant, the Lamplighter, who had a drug problem, and he helped her overcome that. This young entrepreneur in Florida who had a project, and he lent him some money to execute that project. And he helped me also in numerous ways, simple things, small things, like lending me his car every day when I was here going at Parkland College the first year I was in Urbana. In fact, it's on his car that I passed my driver license, and his car was this old yellow Chevy Malibu that looked very much decorated like a Parisian car. I mean, Gunny wasn't the best driver. He probably... he probably had his mind elsewhere. And okay, so the one thing that I do remember about Gunny and my parents is the laughs. Ever since I was a child, I remember whenever Gunny came for dinner, for whatever, they were just laughing all the time. Those loud laughs about the anecdotes, the hundreds of anecdotes that they spent together. And I'm not going to go through all of this because it would take far more than 5 minutes to just summarize all of these. But really this was something that marked me as a child, that Gunny was a man full of life and full of passion. He enjoyed life, he enjoyed good food, he enjoyed good wine, he enjoyed his friend, he enjoyed his work, he enjoyed art, my father's paintings, for example, and that he was someone who was very passionate. He was someone who didn't like so much the administration people, the bureaucrats, as he called them. And one of the last anecdotes I remember about this was when he was in Florida. He was summoned by one of the admin people to come to his office, and this person told him, "Oh, this afternoon I was at the beach and I saw you walking on the beach during working hours. What were you doing at the beach during working hours?" And Gunny was nearly, I think, 90 years old at the time. And he just looked at him and he said, "I was thinking." And I told that to my mom, who said, "Oh, what a good answer that was." I mean, she laughed for like half the day. And that's the thing that my mother and him, they had really, they were very complice, I mean, they really connected and they didn't need words to speak to each other. And Gunny was probably not an easy person to communicate with. It was not always clear what he meant when he talked to you. But that was okay with my mother because she wasn't really listening anyway. And to some extent, she was able to figure out what he was going to say even before he opened his mouth and said things. And that's really something that was a great complicity. So we're here in the Heritage Room, and the topic is to remember Gunny and remember what he left behind. And to me, I think that his biggest heritage is probably his spirit, his strong spirit. I think one of the things that I will remember about Gunny, what it taught me, is to have the courage to have dreams, to have the courage to follow your dreams, and to not give up when things are tough. I owe it to him to have done what I did. I mean, as Glenn mentioned, I was an entrepreneur. I started my own company. It's not the most successful company that you can think about, and paraphrasing Groucho Marx, I would say I'm very proud to have raised myself up from nothing to a state of extreme poverty, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, what matters is at least I've lived my dreams, and we end up dying without having ever lived. And Gunny really taught me this, to have passion, to follow your dream. I think he taught that to many other people. I mean, look at our Master of Ceremony, Glenn. How many of us would have had the courage to sort of give up the comfort of receiving a salary at the end of every month, of being a well-respected university researcher, to become a farmer in California and grow vine, right? So if we remember something about Gunny, that is that strong will and spirit to really follow your dream and to have the courage to just do it. Thank you.